Hello, listeners, and welcome to the very first episode of Life in Motion. My name is Grace Becker. I'm a licensed mental health therapist and an enthusiast of life. Today, I am joined by Jaden Rohrich, my partner in life. Jaden is a senior at North Dakota State University, graduating this winter. And then after that, he's going to continue to work as an electrician in his apprenticeship. Hi, Jaden. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on your first podcast of Life in Motion.
Yeah.
Super exciting. I've never been on a live podcast before.
I've never been on a live podcast.
I've been doing well. Excited for finals week. I've got 2 tests. So realistically, only about 3 hours more of work for my entire undergrad. So almost done with school as far as that school goes. But
has senioritis kicked in?
You know, it did for a little bit, but I think as the semester went on, I started to enjoy it a little bit more. As we started doing final projects and working with more group stuff.
That's good. Senioritis, I had it. I know people who've had it. Honestly, I think senioritis is just a person who's in education's way of being like, yep, I'm burnt out. But honestly, people can get burnt out even if you're not in school. Absolutely. But it's good to hear that. It sounds like that's worn off and kind of the excitement of graduating is coming up. Yep. That's exciting.
Definitely sprinting to the finish line instead of crawling or rolling an ankle or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited to have Jaden on today. This podcast, Life in Motion, is going to have topics including things like mental health related, life related. So stay tuned for more episodes. But let's talk about what we're going to talk about today, shall we?
Let's do it.
Today, we are going to be talking about sex, but more specifically, how to spice up sex, how to keep it interesting in a long-term relationship, the mental weight of sex. I had a hard time titling this topic, but I think you're going to see how it all kind of comes together. I know that a lot of my clients who I've seen and a lot of people like friends, family, have talked about when they're in a relationship, they'll say things like, oh, I'm just not in the mood to have sex. Or I want to have sex, but I just don't. Jaden, what do you think of some of these phrases?
You know, I feel like when you first get into a relationship, you really are all over each other. You're kissing, making out, like every 15 minutes, you're like pouncing, ready to wrestle in the sheets. Have sex is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. This is a rated R podcast, so if you have kids in the car or if you have little ears, put in some headphones or something.
We're getting into it.
We are getting into it.
Yeah, so right away, you're in the mood, but then as the relationship goes on and you sort of find yourself maybe not as excited to be with your partner in bed, or you're really not in the mood because you're tired. When you were first got into a relationship, you were all over each other. Then what has changed? Mm-hmm. How do you keep that fun, exciting time still going?
Yeah, absolutely. And more than that too, I've heard a lot of people say, well, what's like a normal amount to have sex with somebody? Whether you're in a situationship, just starting to meet someone, in a more long-term relationship of a few years, or like years, 20, 40, 50 years. And people are like, well, what's normal? What's normal for my age? What's normal if I'm polyamorous? What should I be doing with my primary partner or with my boyfriend or my girlfriend or whoever? What is normal? And the thing with normal is it's a setting on a washing machine. There is no normal. It's very subjective. Whether you're having sex once every day, once a week, once a month, whatever it may be, as long as you and your partner are, giving consent and you are happy with it, then that is your quote unquote normal. What do you think about that, Jaden?
I think comparison is the thief of joy. Comparing yourself to other relationships is not the way to go about it. You have to have a serious conversation with your partner on, hey, how much Do you feel we need to have sex for you to be satisfied and happy? It's really up to the individual and couple how much they want to have sex and how
Mm-hmm.
much time they have. I guess as you get older and have kids, that changes too because you really don't have time. But I think the biggest issue with the quantity of sex is when one partner wants more and the other isn't on the same page and doesn't feel like having sex as much. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's a big thing too, right? Like the consent part. I have heard the like I want to have sex, or like I'll have sex with my partner, but I can't orgasm, and I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to like enjoy it. There's a difference. There's desire, and there's arousal. And as I was training to be a certified therapist, they talked about like the difference between desire and arousal. And this was Dr. Tammy Nelson who taught this course. And she talked about how a person's desire is they're mentally into it. They mentally want to have intimacy, whether that's foreplay, that's intercourse, that's whatever it is. It's cuddling on a couch. They're mentally into it. But arousal is the body's like being in it. It's because your body can perform, right? A person's body was built to perform. But there's a difference between desire and arousal. Because when you have arousal, it's like, yes, my body can do this. I can have sex, I can have intercourse, I can have whatever. But if that desire, if you're not mentally wanting to have it, then that's not consent. That's not you actually being into it. So it's that point of, okay, how do I get there? And what's holding me back from getting there? What are some of your thoughts, Jaden, as to what could be contributing to some of those like rationale for people?
they want to have sex, but they don't actually have the desire. Like they don't get that arousal.
Well, yeah, like the desire, I think, is what people tend to struggle with more
Okay.
so. Sometimes it is arousal though, right? Because there are some things where it's just hard to physically be able to perform, right? If you're on medication, that can cause like that can affect your libido. That can affect like a person with a penis's ability to like, perform. That can affect vaginal dryness for a person with a vagina, right? It can like some of those physical things. It can make it harder to physically perform. But I think a big block for a lot of people too is that mental desire for it.
Do you think that's just them wanting their partner to be happy, but they just don't want to have sex with them?
Are you talking about like in a monogamous, like heterosexual couple, or just anything?
Anything.
Anything. Okay, yeah. Because I mean, this is kind of something that I've heard from people universally of whether they're in a monogamous or non-monogamy relationship, and you're saying that one partner is wanting to have it and the other's not.
Yeah, one of them wants to have it, but the reason they're saying like I want to have sex is just to make their partner happy.
Just to make them happy.
Just to
Okay.
make them happy. It's not like they have the desire to have sex. They have the desire to make their partner happy.
Right. Yeah. I do think that is a part of it for sure. Like why they end up happening. And I think that a person can only do that for so long, kind of pretending, faking it. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? People want to have good sex, right? And not everybody, right? Because there's people who don't. And that's a common misunderstanding as well, is that everybody likes sex. Everybody wants to have sex. Not everyone does. Some people are asexual where they don't have a desire for intimacy in a relationship like that. What we're trying to figure out right now are some of the reasons behind to kind of almost validate and explore the mental weight of sex and how that can affect a person's desire for it. And then what are some things they can do to overcome it? Some of the things that are affecting people's desire are those physical elements, right? Like fatigue. If a person has been working all day, whether it's like a desk job, so it's more maybe mentally taxing, or if they're like you, an electrician, right? That's pretty physically taxing, I would assume, right? You're tired at the end of the day. So it's like, do I really want to hop on top, right? And if you get two people who are mentally and physically exhausted, I'm sure it's pretty hard to find that desire. So those are some of the things that lead to the lack of desire.
I do feel like when both people are mentally and physically exhausted, it's an agreement like, yeah, I don't really need to do this right now. When, for example, if I come back from a long day at work and I'm really tired and I just feel like going to bed, I think that's when a relationship's not always equal necessarily. It's, yeah, I can't have sex, or I'm too tired to have sex right now, but maybe if I didn't have to do all the work, that would make me more inclined because it's so hard to initiate. I think that's the biggest thing is just being the one to initiate. And if you are always the one to initiate and the other person's always tired, you just get that constant negative reinforcement of you initiate, gets canceled. Like that's just really, really struggling for a person to deal with.
Yeah, that can be a part of that too. There can sometimes create like a pattern of one person being the initiator. And that alone can be exhausting because the person who initiates is probably also wanting to not always have to be the one starting that, to have their partner show interest in them as well by initiating. Because initiation is attractive. It's sexy, right? So it's nice if you can find someone where you can alternate that, absolutely. But then we also get into like dom sub kind of stuff where sometimes people, depending on what they are looking for in their sex life, that's not an issue. Like they're absolutely okay with one person being the initiator and the other person being that more submissive role, who like takes it, right?
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Some other stuff I was thinking of that are if you're in chronic pain, if you have fibromyalgia, if you have some other diagnosis of something that physically makes it hard to perform, right? There's more to that. There's also the mental weight of it too. So a really big one is body image. Jaden, what do you see? How there's a person who's like, no, I haven't been able to really mentally get into intimacy with my partners because I think body image really blocks me. What kind of comes to your mind with that?
Well, when you mention that, it's whoever that person is, they don't like what they see in the mirror when they take their clothes off. And if you can reassure that person, especially when they do have poor body image, that I think you're sexy, I want to have sex with you, I'm really attracted to you, I have a desire to do this, like, I love the way you look. You are stunning.
Don't give me those eyes right now.
If people with body image issues heard that, I think that would help them out quite a bit.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point. That's actually one of the ways that you can increase the desire for sex. Because here's the thing, when a person feels wanted, not even sex related, like think about when like a friend reached out to you and was like, I want your opinion on something, or a boss or coworker came to you for your opinion or for advice. It feels so good to be wanted.
Yeah, you're so ready to give it to. Like, yeah, I got an opinion on that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you think I matter and my opinion's valid. Like,
it's like a similar concept to like a person's sex life, right? So when you have someone coming to you for that reassurance, body image absolutely can affect a person's drive to want to have sex, because when you don't feel confident or good about yourself, it's really hard to imagine that somebody else does. Whether it's, something with your appearance, or maybe it's an experience you had before with sex or intimacy and it didn't go well, right? Or maybe it's even some trauma, whether it's big T trauma, sexual assault, or it's something a past partner made a comment that was triggering. It can be hard to kind of block that out of your head, because if someone is willing to say something that out loud, it's like, well, if other people are saying this or thinking this, what am I thinking, right? But a big part of it is we're in our own heads about it. So when someone can give reassurance and validation, you're sexy, I want to be with you, that's a big help because it makes them feel wanted. What are some more ways, Jaden, that you think that could help couples with creating that intimacy and building that up? Not even necessarily just intercourse, but building that intimacy of, okay, here's some actual tactical things we can do to enhance our intimacy and our sex life.
be romantic. Being romantic is a lot more than flower petals on the floor and a bed with candles next to it with water flowing and some good music going. I think there's more to romance than that. I think what I was talking about before, where you come home and you're tired, or there's kids that you're taking care of and you've been dealing with them all day, having to parents, and you're exhausted from doing that, and that makes you tired. I think the more that someone can do to help your partner out and make them feel like they're in this with you together, I think that builds intimacy. I went through basic training, and that is all about building teamwork, embracing the suck. And the reason why you bond so closely with those people is because you're literally low crawling in rubber chips through sweat and mud and just going through the worst of times. But you're doing it together and you're all helping lift each other up. So in a relationship, if you're able to, you know, do the dishes, help with the kids, take them somewhere. I think doing those little things throughout the day and knowing, yeah, we're in this together. We're not separate people living separate lives. We're a team. We're one. That's romantic and can build intimacy.
When I think of a relationship, there is two sides of a relationship. When you think of your partners, it's you have your roommate side of your relationship and you have your erotic, intimate side of your relationship. So the roommate side is, okay, we live together. Who's going to pick up the kids? Who's going to take the dog out? Who's going to do the dishes? Who's going to mow the lawn? Who's going to do all these things, right? The roommate side. And then there's the erotic side. That's the cuddling, the intimacy. It's the using all of the 5 love languages, which we're going to get into. It's intercourse, it's aftercare, it's the erotic side. So I think the important thing is to give to both sides. So if you take care of the roommate side, right? If you take care of like the kids and the dogs and the dishes, the whatever, it's a lot easier to be able to enact that erotic side. Jaden, what do you think about like those two sides of a relationship?
I think there's definitely a balance. I think there's got to be help in every place in the roommate side, and there's also got to be enough erotic side. As a relationship goes on, immediately as you first get into a relationship, it's a lot of erotic. You're going over, you're not really helping out with anything. You're cuddling, watching movies, you're doing date nights. You know, you're having a lot of sex all the time, pouncing on each other. And then as time goes on, you know, you start moving in with each other. You come home after work and eat with each other, and you might watch a movie, cuddle a little bit, but I think it kind of shifts over to being more of roommate side if you let it. I think it's really important to keep that erotic side and be cognizant that you're actually getting date nights and being intimate with each other in many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've recommended to some of my clients in the past when I've seen couples, and I've worked with monogamous couples, non-monogamous couples, and the thing that I usually recommend is a sex date. And what a sex date is essentially, or intimacy date, whatever you want to call it, it's when you set aside time to commit to your erotic side of your relationship. The sex date is committing to, preferably if you can, same day, same time, every week. Because when you do that, you eliminate the pressure of it. Again, we were talking about the initiator. There's pressure for the person to initiate because it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. When am I going to do it? This is how I'm going to do it, and see how they respond to it. But when you set aside the time in the day, it's like, okay, boom, pressure's off because you know what's going to happen every week at 8 p.m., at 9 p.m. And you want to start with something because it's different where you start for every person and for every relationship. So for some people, they start with going back and forth over a romantic meal, asking each other open-ended, intimate questions just to get to know your partner, just to get to know who they are and what really drives them, you know?
And then find out their kinks.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, heck yeah, you could do that too. Ask that question. What's one of your fantasies? Absolutely, that's a great question to ask. But sometimes, for some relationships, it's more advanced. So, something I've recommended in the past is giving your partner a massage, but don't have sex, especially if it's been a relationship where it's been really difficult to have sex, where it's, again, that lack of desire for it, right? Because you want to take away the pressure of intercourse that it has. And so what you can do is okay, first week for our sex date, I'm going to get a 30-minute massage and you're going to give it to me, or I'm going to give you a 30-minute massage and you're going to receive it. There's going to be a giver and a receiver. and get really excited for it. Shave whatever you want to shave, buy some nice massage oil. Depending what the budget's looking like, get a massage table, do what you got to do, right? And then the next week you switch. And then the giver becomes the receiver, vice versa. And then you can slowly build up. Once you think you're comfortable with the massage and your partner's touch, then maybe you move up to oral sex, but no intercourse, no penetration. Because there's pressure with that again. Do you see kind of the gradual, almost exposure of the intimacy?
So it's just kind of building up. I feel like that'd be really, really erotic. That sounds really nice. But I think a sex date sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, sex date is a really great idea.
I feel like that also builds up anticipation too, because you start in the morning knowing that's gonna happen, or you get a massage and you're like, man, I could really have sex right now, but it's gonna happen next week.
Yeah, and it's especially good for people who have kind of, like you were talking about earlier, like the honeymoon stage when you first start with somebody, that both that desire and the arousal is there, you know? Because it's new, it's exciting, it's a new person or people. So you don't always need that extra help. That extra, let me try this technique. Because it's a new person, it's exciting, right? But this is a great skill for anybody, and especially for people who feel they want to have sex, but they just don't know how to get back into really desiring it.
I feel like when you haven't had sex for months, it's like, man, can I even perform? It's been so long since I've had sex. It's got to be the greatest thing ever. Like, since it's been so long, I can't fuck this up. Who knows when it's gonna happen again?
And that, my friend, is an irrational thought.
I've had that irrational thought.
Yeah, you, me, many people listening to this, I'm sure. Irrational thoughts claim so many people. And the best thing to help combat some of those thoughts, because we can really get in our own heads about things, whether we're getting in our own head about something that has happened or we're just perceiving something that hasn't even happened yet. We love to catastrophize situations, and the best way to combat that is to look at the facts of the situation. So for a person who's, it's been, like you were just saying, like, it's been a long time since I've had sex, I don't know if I can do this, if I'm going to be able to perform. Look at the facts. One, yeah, maybe it has been a long time since you've had sex. Who are you with? Who's this partner? Oh, it's my partner of like 3 years. Okay, well, has this partner ever been rude to you, pointing out that your performance isn't adequate enough? No. Okay. So they probably won't now, right? 2, fact, you have to build up like stamina. You don't, full disclosure, like I need to build up my stamina with cardio, right? In the past, I used to be able to run for like 30 minutes at the gym on the treadmill, like keep a steady pace, no sweat. Well, sweat, but no sweat, you know what I mean? And now my stamina is lower because I haven't been consistent with my cardio, right? So it's kind of similar with sex life. When there has been that gap in time, you're not actively using the muscles and the organs that perform that way. So yeah, it might be affected, but once you feel comfortable with the person and you can kind of build up that consistency again, that could change. And there's medications and there's different things you can do. And that was actually another segue into some more things that people could try. The intimacy starts long before the bedroom, before you even get in the bedroom. So Jaden, what are some toys or ways you can create that intimacy before you get to the bedroom?
You know, when you first started asking that question, I thought you were going to talk about the crazy sex pills that are in the men's bathrooms and gas stations. I was like, you didn't know about that?
What? Tell me more.
So in some gas stations, when you walk in the bathroom, it's almost like a candy machine. You know, you put the quarter in, you spin the thing, you get the candy. No, they've got condoms, they've got sex pills. They're basically just caffeine pills. They're fake, but they're supposed to boost your sex drive, and that's like in the bathroom.
In every men's bathroom at like a gas station?
Not every man. They're in very few. I think people have caught on that they're just gimmicks, but I've seen quite a few of them. I just went in one when I was on drill, and I forget what it was. It was like some dragon. I asked my commander, I'm like, is that in regs right there? Is that a legal drug for us? But as far as Toys, lingerie. I think going to a sex shop with your partner is a good one. Even then, when you go to a sex shop, you can be like, hey, I think you would look really good in this. And that's kind of reassurance, especially if you have body image issues or your partner does.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. That's a great way. And that also, oh, we didn't get to talk about this. We were going to the five love languages. That's a good one for gift giving. So the five love languages are gift giving, physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, and quality time. You can use those five love languages to build intimacy that later can evolve into intercourse. This is both how people like to give and receive love and affection. And people tend to have around 2 or 3 top love languages. Everyone needs a little bit of all 5. However, some people have top ones. Jaden, what would you say is your top 2 love languages?
I think definitely physical touch. I think that's my biggest one. I remember our first date. You were like all cuddly and snuggling up into me. She's the one. She's the one. I don't know, it just makes me feel secure. I love wrapping my arms around you. I don't know why I
The
said
pause, the hesitation.
I don't know, it just makes me feel happy. I fall asleep faster. Just fills me with so many good endorphins.
Yeah. So physical touch, you think
Physical
is
touch.
definitely one of your top 2.
And then words of affirmation, gift giving, acts of service, and then what's the last one?
Quality time.
Quality time and
Yeah.
food.
We created a 6th love language off podcast. We were like, food has to be a love language. You could probably put it in with gift giving though, but food.
Is that back to our animalistic instincts? Going out in the morning, hunting down some antelope and dragging it back,
Oh God.
and it's like bringing food back to the family.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. If you, listener, are a expert in that, please tell us. What did you call it? Animalistic?
Our old instincts.
Our instincts.
Our natural instincts.
Natural instincts. Okay.
You know,
if
like
you're an expert in
cats
that,
have
let us
like
know.
natural instincts to hunt birds.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting
Yeah.
down. I have just
I'm
no
laying it.
idea. We're getting off track here.
Okay,
we are
Food.
ADHD.
I think definitely physical touch. It's either acts of service or not words of affirmation.
Quality time.
Quality time. That's the
time.
one.
I know you so well.
You do.
Mine are definitely physical touch. Okay, top 3. It's been a minute since there's a quiz you can take online for this to figure out what you are, like what your tops are. But my top 3 have to be quality time, physical touch, and words of affirmation. And so what are they? Like, what do they really mean, right? So we talked about gifts. This is, again, how people both like to give and receive love. So a person whose love language is gifts, they love to not only buy things, but, oh, I saw this flower, picked it, give it to you. Reminded me of you, right? Then there is quality time. So quality time is, I think sometimes people confuse it. It's, oh yeah, I'll be watching the game and my partner will just be like reading their book, and yeah, we're next to each other, so we're spending quality time. And say, well, you're not actually spending quality time because you're not like doing something together. Jaden, you said quality time was one of your top ones. What would be like quality time activity that you would like to do?
Anything outside. Going for a walk is definitely one of my top ones. Watching a movie together. No phones.
No
Absolutely no
phones.
phones. I think phones are one of the best tools in our generation and also our worst enemy because we use them way too much. I find myself scrolling on Instagram Reels or playing Clash of Clans or whatever while we're supposed to be spending time together, and it's like, get off the phone. That stuff doesn't matter. Be present. Know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Quality time, any activity that you can be doing something together, be present with each other is great. Okay, so we covered gifts, we covered quality time, physical touch. So again, this is more than just like intercourse. This is hand holding. This is cuddling. This is scratching their back. This is doing those types of things. Just any sort of physical touch. And then the next one would be words of affirmation. So Jaden, when you hear words of affirmation, what do you immediately go to?
I think words of affirmation is I immediately go to physical appearance and how you look in the moment, saying, I really like your outfit. Your hair looks gorgeous. Like, your eyes are so beautiful. I think it's also words of affirmation is like, you're doing really well at work. I'm really proud of you for starting a podcast. I'm really proud of how kind you are in every situation. Proud of how smart you are.
Yeah. So you're saying it's both giving those compliments on someone's appearance, like, oh, nice hairdo. Did you just get done? Or I love that outfit. You look really good in that suit or whatever. But it's more than that. It's acknowledging and validating, empathizing with your partner and saying, I'm proud of you. You did great at this thing, or like, thank you for helping me with this. Actually giving that validation and that empathy to them. The next one would be acts of service. So we covered quality time, physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation. Yeah, acts of service is left. Jaden, have you ever heard of acts of service before and like what that means?
I have heard of acts of service. I have my own definition in my head of what it means.
What does it mean to you? Tell us.
To me, acts of service is doing anything for your partner that makes their life easier or that brings them joy or happiness. So, like, that could be doing something for them, like taking on extra responsibilities around the house, or it could be something intimate, like giving them a massage. Maybe they've got their feet are really sore, so you give them a foot massage because, that's something that will actually help them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that kind of double dips into the physical touch too.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of acts of service, I think going to like that roommate side of stuff that we've talked about earlier. It's a person who's they like it when they have a partner who can help them with like things around the house. So like if you help them do the dishes, if you cook dinner for them, if you do like a nice gesture, like say like your partner is always the one to go like, pick up the kids from daycare or go pick up the dog from doggy daycare. And if you're hey, like I got this today, like I'll see you at home. That is a really good acts of service as well. Those are the 5 love languages, people. So if you can think of what would be my partner's top love language, or even do it with your partner. Sit down together, go through the quiz. It's a 30-question quiz. Figure out what your top love language is. And if you can be consistent and acknowledging and performing your partner's love language, that alone can help create that intimacy that can later lead to a more flourishing sex life.
Especially if you haven't talked to your partner about their love language, that can be really helpful.
Yes.
I think even guessing your partner's top love language could be a really fun idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make a little game out of it.
Yeah. Remember our first date when we did that quiz together?
Oh my gosh, I'm such a therapist.
We were on our first date, cuddling on the couch, and she's like, what's your love language? We should take this quiz. See if we're compatible.
What can I say? I'm a girl who loves to know other people's love languages. It's a little niche. I love talking about it. I could do a whole episode on it.
It was so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, so some things to just keep in mind as we wrap up this episode. The mental weight of sex can really affect not only the mental weight, but like just physical pressure to have sex can be really intimidating. And I think what are some good key things to remember is 1, face those irrational thoughts with some facts. That's one thing you can do. 2, go easy on yourself too, right? I mean, we're people are on medication, you're tired, you work a long day, so try to figure out ways that you could build up on that intimacy, the intimacy/sex date idea, going through and doing those love languages, performing your partner's love language. That can really help build that intimacy. And once you are there having that sex and intercourse, again, find your own normal. If you're feeling pressured that you need to be having it more, if your partner's pressuring you, that's a red flag. That's a need for concern, right? Some other good things you could practice, you could try doing is going to your own individual therapy, going to couples therapy. They can be really helpful in really specializing your own partner's needs. What do you think, Jaden?
I had a question. You said red flag is to feel pressured by your partner for sex. How would you say if a partner isn't feeling like their needs are being met, what is the best way to go about asking your partner like, "Hey, I feel like we don't have enough sex."
So how to approach that
Yeah.
conversation? Yeah. When I said that, it's if your partner, if you've gone to your partner or partners and you're like, hey, I don't want to have this sex, and they're kind of like, really? That's kind of lame of you, or what good are you if you're not gonna have sex with me? That's the red flag. No, not okay. But if you have a partner who, and you go to them and you're like, hey, I don't think I can do this. I'm not in the mood. I just am not mentally into it. You know what I'm saying? And they're just trying to understand, or they're trying to bring their concern to you. That's different. To me, that's a green flag because that's part of a relationship. You're going to them. And a good way to do that is to state how you're feeling using I feel statements. So if I were to go to you, Jaden, right, because you're my partner, and I was like, Jaden, you really have been slacking. You have not been a good partner to me. You have, been letting me down in the bed, outside the bed. That feels horrible, doesn't it? That feels like an attack. It really lowers that self-esteem, and it's not going to really get you what you want, the intimacy. Versus if I came to you and I switch out those you statements to I statements, I can start with the facts. We haven't had sex in over a month, right? Fact. And then I can list all the other facts I have, and then I get into my feelings. I've been feeling really lonely. I've been feeling distant or disconnected from you. That's how I've been feeling because of the facts, because of the situation. And then you give your fair request. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the 3 Fs: facts, feelings, fair request. And then you give your fair request, which is, I would like it if we could practice a sex date, if we could practice each other's love languages, if we could go to couples therapy. That is a good way of approaching that situation. Does that answer your question?
That does. I was just curious because you said that pressured. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Jaden, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. It was really great having you for my first episode. And this is exciting. If you liked what you heard today, please leave a review, share this episode. And I also want to hear from you, listener. If you have questions about life, mental health, or you have a story that you would like to share related to today's episode, related to future episodes, I would love to hear it. I plan to incorporate some listener stories, some listener questions in episodes. So if you want to be a part of that, or you want to get some questions answered, you can email me, and you can email me at life, that's LIFE .motion, MOTION 24 @gmail.com, and listen for it on the podcast. I'll be releasing podcasts every week, so stay tuned in for more information about life in motion. Until next week, thanks for coming. Embrace the chaos, find beauty. Jaden, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Good. All right. Bye.
Bye.